Golden Nugget page. It's awesome.
That's not a nugget though.
Golden Bar page. The Golden Bar page. It makes it so much better. You ready?
Yes.
All right, good. Y'all like shut up. Okay, I get you.
That's them. That's
Amplitude?
I want to hear you talk.
I appreciate it. Period and phase shift. All right, get this down. We are going to do this right here, one problem together. Then I'm going to have you navigate some with yourselves, okay? Kind of doing it alongside of each other. All right, real quick. Amplitude is what? Help me out with that. Yeah, it's how high the graph is, isn't it? And when I navigate how high the graph is, it depends on what value. How do I know what the amplitude would be?
Whatever's the highest on
Yes, it's the highest on the y-axis, right? But then someone else said something too. It's the A, right? So when you talk about amplitude, Coach J's strength, this would be the A. Okay? The A. Amplitude. Coach J's strength. Good. What is period? 2 pi over? 2 pi over B. It's the, say it again, Anna? I thought, it's the distance you travel. Cool. The distance you travel. I like it. So anytime I travel a certain distance, that would be period. Nicely done. Okay? I have a lot of energy. You feeling it? I'm just feeling it. All right, so it goes up, down, and back up again. Cool? That would be my period, that distance that's there. And it keeps repeating, right? Keeps repeating. Victoria, come on.
I was going to say
That's good.
B over C.
Yes, it would be, say again?
B over C. Or, wait, yeah. Wait, no, C over B.
C over B, nicely done. Good. C over B. Okay? Something to keep in the back of your mind. Whatever sign's here, we do the opposite. A little different. If there's a minus C, that means we're going to push it to the right. Good. So if period is the amount that I travel, okay, phase shift is the where I. Ooh, nicely done, Andre. 2 seconds. I just felt good there. Okay. So this is where we start. Okay. How many of you love to travel? You guys love to travel? All right. Those that raise your hands, what's your favorite location? Mexico? Turks and Caicos?
Place to go?
If you could go anywhere right now, where would you go?
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Heaven.
I like that. Ann Arbor, Michigan.
I hate you, Jack. I hate you. Nothing but love, man. Nothing but love.
I like it. Okay, so here's how I relate this, okay? All right, really listen. This is tune in. Big deal here. The biggest mistake that I see in Pre-Cal 12 is I see a lot of people get these 3 right. People get these 2 mixed up. Phase shift is the location that I start. Period is the distance I travel. Okay? So if I start in Atlanta and I head to Texas, the starting point is my phase shift. The period is the distance that I travel.
Mr. Sorry.
Ooh, okay. Don't feel angry.
Go throw hands at him. Go throw hands at him, Coach J.
I'm going to go do that.
Oh, wait, there's 2 free tickets. Time out. Give me.
Here we go.
Jack, give me one.
Give me one.
Wait, can I have one?
So phase shift,
Good hustle, Jack.
he
Good
had
hustle.
enthusiasm. The way he attacked that,
Good hustle.
enthusiasm.
Good hustle.
Enthusiasm. All right.
I love my tickets.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So when we go to amplitude, period, and phase shift, we know these 3 are what we attack it with. Okay. So real quick, just so you know, okay, as we attack this graph, here we are. We go up, whoop, down, whoop, and there we are. Okay. That right there would be a distance of a. This is a period distance. Good. This point is called my. True in terms of up here. Phase shift, right? Because it's where I start. Cool. You'll see why in a second. Phase shift. And then how high or how low goes is my amplitude. This would be up A and down A, whatever A would be. Cool? If you're good, say uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
All right, we're doing one together. That's all I'm asking for, and then we're going to do them kind of in groups, all right? So it'll be much better. But I need to go over one with you and go from there, okay? Do you see the gang sign? Get it? I don't know. Okay, never mind. Forget get it. That was cheesy. I'm sorry. All right, let's take a look at this one. Y equals 2 sine of x, all right? So we got first thing, the first thing I would do, okay? Again, just a side note. How many of you have struggled on these before in another class, okay? I saw a lot of hands go up in all my classes today, so you're not alone, okay? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hopefully help you in breaking it down, all right? Just break it down. The first thing I would do is first find all three, okay? Amplitude, period, and phase shift. All right, help me. Someone stand up real quick. Give me amplitude. You gotta stand up. You gotta stand up, though. Let's go, David.
2.
Nicely done. Someone different. Hold up real quick. Does everyone understand why it's 2?
Because you're given two.
Yeah, because
A,
2 is in
the A.
front. Therefore, it's the A. We would say amplitude goes up and down 2. So we're gonna make that there and state that 2 is my amplitude. Someone stand up. Give me what my period would be. Would be my period. Someone other than David.
Is it 2 pi?
Yeah, how'd you do that? You're right.
Because
Nice.
What's the formula?
2 pi over b.
Good, and what is B?
1.
How do I know?
Because it's just absent for the x.
Good, it's connected to X, right? All right.
Fell.
What happened? What?
You hit the board.
No, I meant to do that.
It just happened. I was really,
You did it, it happened so
you
fast.
tripped on? Like your feet didn't move.
I
like
meant
just
to do
your
that.
feet.
All right. Y'all are making me self-conscious. I love it. All right, 2 pi is what I've got. All right, good. Ian. What would be my phase shift? Who said that, Roger? Are you sure? Why would it be 0?
Because it's starting at 0.
Good. And then what's the C over B part? You rock that. It's good. What's the C over B part? What is C?
1. No, 0.
0. There is no C. There's nothing here. Got me? Do you see over here how on the no, not that one. No, not right here. What's the C here? Pi. You see it? B is 2. See that there?
Yes.
Over here, Audrey was right. There was no C. Okay? So therefore, what is my phase shift? Well, if it's C over B, that'd be 0 over 1, which is 0. Cool? All right, here we go. Ready? This is how I attack it. Are there any questions on those three? This is the part people struggle with. So I'm going to take this just a little slow, and then I'm going to have you practice it, okay? So where is my amplitude? That's the easy part, right? How high and how low do we go? 2 and -2. I always do them at the ends like this because it doesn't matter. As long as you label it, it could be 1 and -1. Just label it and you're good, okay? What's my start here?
0.
0. Good, let's put that there. Whatever my phase shift is my starting point. Just like with the Atlanta illustration, that's where I'm going to start. Okay? Now here's the tough part. This is maybe a little easier, but once we get to other ones, they get tougher. What is the distance I travel? 2 pi. Okay? So if I start at 0, I will have a full period and end at where? 2 pi. Now here's a question. If my start was pi, I know it's 0, but let's say it was pi, and my period was 2 pi, where would my end be? 3 pi. If you're like, ugh, I struggle, we'll look at it in just a second, okay? But over here, we know that the end point, and I'm going to put it way out here just so I've got room, would be 2 pi. What's the middle point? Pi, good. We label 5 points, okay? This is how we do it. The middle, beginning, middle, and end, I put a dot, okay? So a period's got to occur between these, between this range here, between 2 pi. What would be the quarter point here? Pi over 2. Good, Mason. Good. It's halfway between, right? What would this be?
3 pi over 2.
3 pi over 2. Good. Right? So I've got my points, my dots, and my quarter points is x's. This is just what I've done. You have other things you do, and that's fine. Cool. So I start here, and I go up yonder, okay? And where do I hit the highest point?
2.
2. What about on the x-axis?
Pi over 2. Oh.
Pi over 2. You see that? So I'm going to hit the top here at 2 and pi over 2 where they intersect. Where will it come down? Pi. What will happen now? Right here? Yeah, right at 3 pi over 2 and -2. and then it's going to come back up again. Okay? How many periods is that?
1.
1. How many do I have to graph? I've got to graph 2. Okay? What's cool about this is watch this. If I know this is 4 away and I've kept it consistent, just go 4 away, because you know at this point it's going to come here, come down, 2, it's going to come down here, right? Same, it's just kind of, it's easier because it's spaced out. You don't have to have blank sheets of paper that look a little bit weird. And all I'm asking for on the second one, the blue one, is to give me what these 2 points would be here, okay? You don't have to give me the quarter points on the second one. So what's the end over here? 4 pi. Good, Mason. Mason, what's the middle? 3 pi. Good. Because as you look at it, it goes from 0 to pi, where it intersects, to 2 pi, to 3 pi, to 4 pi. And that's it.
So you run the test, you don't expect to do the quarter points for the second period?
You do not have to do the quarter points for the second period. Because again, that's redundant. If you just do the first one, you do it fully, I know that you know how to find those points. Just give me the other, where they crosses, or the other 2 points, you're fine. You're good on that. Cool? All right, questions? Y'all are good? Okay, here's what I want you to do. Just as a practice, and here and I'll come there too, okay? I want you to try this one, not that one, sorry. There you go, right there. Okay, I want you to go towards the one not next to Tim Tebow, this one here, okay? Find the amplitude period phase shift amongst yourselves, and if you're really feeling gutsy, try to graph it, okay? If you can graph this accurately in your groups, I've got tickets for you. Yeah, like 20, right?
20? Are you sure about that?
No.
How do you think?
I'm going to do it.
So you've got quarter points I find by going, you can do it 2 ways. You can visualize it and know that what's between 0 and pi. And that's pi over 2, right? If you do it that way, sometimes that can be tricky. Okay? Traditionally, it's usually to multiples of 2. So it could be pi over 4 or pi over 2. What you could do is if you started at 0, try it. Go pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, which would be 3 pi. 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, which would be 2 pi. 5 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, 8 pi over 2. You could do that. That's one way too. Others actually add them together and divide by 2. It's like adding. So you do 0 plus pi, divide that sum by 2 as well. So there's a bunch of different ways. The biggest thing is there's kind of a pattern to it too. So as you start looking at it, you'll recognize that, oh, this is a multiple of 4, this is a multiple of 2, or this is multiples of just pi. So as you go, I think that will help as you do something. Try this next one and see if you can get
I say it's just like a model.
The b is the one that's next to x, right? So right here. So if it's 2 pi over b, it'd be 2 pi over 2. So what's my period distance? 2 pi over 2 would be,
2 could cancel.
yeah.
If phase should be negative.
Full understand. That makes sense. So if it was, let me see here. Right here. What would the period be for that one, Debbie? Which should be? Nice. Good. Rocking. Yo, what's up, Jack?
Phase should be negative.
Phase shift is always opposite from where I start.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So if it says negative here, where's the phase shift going to push? To the right. Good. It's going to be positive to the right. Good.
So, Coach Jay,
I told you.
Yeah.
so the
Yeah,
phase
I
shift
think
is
it's
on
funny.
two, like,
Meant to be 2 pi over 2.
It's still starting.
Yeah.
Just the way we're
Got it.
Sorry.
So you start at 5 or 2. Like that. And when a distance of a period is right, like that. So, question. You do this on your way out. I want to just show you real quick up here.
Coach Jay.
So then you said this was pi over 2, right? So if I went to the right, how far am I going? pi, yeah, we're traveling a distance of pi. So it's a little weird. If I start at pi over 2 and I travel the distance of pi, I'm not going to end at pi. I'm going to end at pi over 2 plus pi. You follow me on that? So if I did plus pi, what would I need to do to add those together? 2 over 2, which would be 3 pi over 2. So what I like to do is give myself some space and make this ending 3 pi over 2, so I know that I'm going to go up, down, and back up again in that distance, right? What's in the middle? There you are. Yeah, good. And then we find our quarters. That's a little tougher because it's between pi over 2 and pi, which would be that's tough. Yeah, it'd be 3 pi over 4. Good. Yeah, because it's between half and a full would be 3/4, right? And if you're like, ugh, I don't really get that. If you thought of this as 0.5 and this is 1, what's between 0.5 and 1? It's 0.75 or 3 pi over 4. And so once I graph this, and I'll label these, I go up, touch there, come back down, touch at the x, come back up. Cool. So the values are good. It's just the graphing part. You could, yes. I just start everything there, and as long as I label it, okay. No, I take that. You can still do it as long as everything's equal. You're good.
So is there a starting point?
Always opposite. So if you go over here and trying to see, would that face should go left or right? This one right here.
It was so dumb because one goes, oh yeah.
Bad.
So where would it go? All right, how we doing?
Good. I think I grabbed this right. Can you come check me out?
Man, y'all are focused. Y'all were like holding out on me. Y'all are focused now. Look at you. Let me see. After this, you know.
Did I do it? Oh, so I just got to do this.
Rocking. Okay, hey, really quick, I need your help because I want to make sure that you're getting it, okay? All right, first off, amplitude. Did you get the amplitude was 1? Okay? You should have 1, -1. Questions on amplitude? All right, period. What was period again?
Pi. Wait, come on.
Yeah, 2 pi over b, which would be what, Hannah? Yeah, 2 pi over 2, which was pi. Good. Guys, chill for me. Just as Hannah's talking. Got me? You'd be right. That'd be pi. David, help me out. You were talking on the meaning. What does the period mean?
The period is the distance of it, like each little wavy thing, or I don't know, like
Yes.
the distance.
Do me a favor. When you go to college, y'all, everyone, say wait that wavy thing. Just do it. Everybody, all of us. We'll all do it. Okay. We'll do it. That's good.
You're going back to college?
Please, yeah, can you wait for Hunter to come back and we can go? You're good on that. I don't even know what to say after that. That's good.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing.
So how do I get phase shift? How do I get phase shift again? C over B, good. So when we do this, we do pi over 2, right? And here's the big thing.
You flip it, coach. You flip it.
Good, Jack. We remember that if it's minus, we switch it to where now it's going to be pushed to the right side. I forgot to say that, and that's my bus. If I end up doing this, pi over 2 is my phase shift. What I do, I look inside. If that's negative, I just put a little plus sign telling me that I start at positive pi over 2, okay? All right, now, as you look at this, I went pi over 2. Could someone explain to me, who has not gotten a ticket today, why did I end at 3 pi over 2? Jake.
Wait, where? Oh.
Why did I end at 3 pi over 2?
It's plus, like, pi for sure.
Good, so from my starting point, I am traveling a distance of pi from my starting point, right? Cool. Question, someone help me out. Jack, did you get the quarter points here?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
pi over 4, and then 6 pi over 4.
6 pi over 4, which
Five.
I think this would be 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4 here, right? And then 3 pi over 2. Cool.
I'm going home.
All right, real quick, as you look up here, and I want to make sure, I know we're messing around a little bit, I want to make sure we're serious. Is there anyone that on this one struggled with how to either label it or graph it? I'm looking at eyes across the room. Say again, Hannah. Did you get it there? Kind of, sort of?
Yeah.
You want to do one more? We'll do one more together. Is that cool? One thing that I'm missing is what? Eyes up here, help us out. What would be the one thing we're missing?
The next thingy.
We need one more, right? So here's what I would say. As I look at this, and Hannah and I were talking, this is a really good point. What I struggle with even sometimes is as I look at pi over 2 and pi, noticing that I'm adding by pi over 4 each time, right? So as I go, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, what's the next one? 7 pi over 4, then the next one is 8 pi over 4, which reduced would be
2 pi.
2 pi, 9 pi over 4, right? And then finally 10 pi over 4, which is 5 pi over 2. Good. So then I just copied the same thing over. Cool? All right? Cool. Do this one for me. Let's do one more. This is our last one for the day. Okay? I want you to do example 1. Cool? Example 1. Ready? Let's break. Let's go. Great.
Coach Jay, has those two things up there by the projector always been nice?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just not noticing.
Those are from previous years for sure.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, you did.
I love you, big dog.
Every like 2 years or so.
I know.
Get one with all the pictures and stuff on.
Okay.
No.
Too far. I mean, not far enough.
You were sort of way.
Now I get it now when you explain
Good. Good, good. Let me know as you go through that.
Coach, it's going to go backwards, isn't it?
It is, so what I would do, what's the phase shift?
It's going to be pi over 4.
To the
Negative.
left, right? So if this is negative pi over 4, just take that into account when I'm going towards the right. But you could just label that as negative pi
I
over
can't go backwards.
4. You could go to the left. I always usually go forward because that means that I would add my period. And what's my period?
It's
What would be my period on this one?
2 pi over 2.
Nice. Good. Good. Good, good.
Oh, it's negative.
Wait, why is it negative? Oh, is it because it was positive and negative?
Yeah, it has everything to do with that one on the inside.
So how does that affect the graph?
So that just means how I do it is everywhere in the middle, every time that black area crosses each other, I make that my starting point. And that's okay. As long as I label it, I'm good with that. So that does not necessarily mean that you start at 0. You could. For me, it makes it easier. That just means that's my starting point. Okay? Now, what'd you get for your period?
Pi over 2.
Nice. So I'm traveling from negative pi over 4 to the right how far?
Pi over 2.
Good, and so you might have to get a common denominator there. Cool. So you'll probably do negative pi over 4 plus pi over 2 to see where my ending point would be. Cool.
They like name names now.
I'm sorry, I
They like
had a little brain
basically
fart.
figure name out.
4 next is B, correct?
4 is B.
Okay, so it goes B then C, so it just goes A, B, C.
So bad.
Okay, just make sure.
As long as just remember whatever the X
I'll
would
do
be.
it all.
So,
That makes sense.
What was it walking down? Magic?
Y'all have focus. Woo! Does that make sense? It's a little weird because it goes to the left. I mean, we've done all of them that start at the right. So where would the middle one be? So you have negative pi over 4 and pi over 4, right? Where's the middle one? if I go from negative pi over 4 and pi over 4, what's the middle between negative and positive? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, what's up, y'all? Gotcha. So where's negative pi over 4? Yeah, so we started negative pi over 4 is here, right? So as I go to the right, if I start at negative pi over 4 and I travel pi over 2, where's my
We're traveling pi. We're not traveling 2 pi.
right?
We're not traveling 2 pi over 2. We're traveling pi over 2.
So if you have, if I'm driving 10 miles, it depends on where I'm starting, right? Same thing, pi over 2 is how far, or I'm sorry, pi is how far I've traveled, but it depends on where I start. So if pi over 2 is the distance I travel and I start at negative pi over 4, I'm traveling pi over 2 from negative pi over 4. So if I start right here, Rosemary, this is negative pi over 4. If I travel to the right, positive pi over 2, I can just take negative pi over 4 and add pi over 2 to get to where my ending point is. Because that's how far I travel from my, I call this my starting point, my beginning. Cool? I'll be right there just a second. Go ahead.
Caitlin, how's your boyfriend Jack?
Hey, are you stealing?
Caitlin,
What's your number? Is it?
I heard there's an engagement coming up.
You propose?
Homecoming? Question mark? Are you going to homecoming?
Actually, pi over 2, negative pi over 2 would be the way out here, right?
Okay, what happened?
So what's between here and negative pi over 2?
Never mind.
That's 1/2 of this, right? Like that.
Is it on? Not Jaquette? Or Mrs. Jaquette? About software season, is that kind of awkward?
Do you ever struggle on that?
How was the long
Off to the
distance?
side, Olivia, I just go 0 plus negative pi over 4. That'd be, I'm just averaging, right? That'd be negative pi over 4, and then divide by 2. Or same thing, multiply by 1/2. And that's how I get negative pi over 2. You're welcome. All right, hey, how'd we do? How'd y'all do? Get it? Come on, talk to me. What are we struggling with?
Well, it's hard because it's a negative pi over 4 and you have to, you said like find out what the numerator and stuff, so then adding it just made
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, y'all, we good? Jack, what do you do, my man?
Yeah, give me my bottle. Give me my bottle.
Let's go.
Alright,
We're almost done. We're
You
almost
told
done
me to give
today.
me my bottle, Coach Jay?
David, I'll give it back to you.
Hey, guys, chill just for a second. So when we go from negative pi over 4, I had a question Hannah did. When we go from negative pi over 4 to our ending point, we're traveling pi over 2, right? So in essence, we're adding pi over 2 to negative pi over 4. So what do? We've got to get the common denominator. So when I multiply the bottom by 2 by, I have to do it to the top. So negative pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4 is, I think it's just pi over 4, isn't
I
it?
thought you wanted us to make it like do negative though.
This
Yeah.
right here, you're
Yeah,
saying that part?
Yeah.
Well, the negative pi over 4 is my phase shift. That's where I start, right?
Mhm.
But when I go to the right, I'm going to add the period distance of pi over 2.
So you
To
don't,
wherever
you don't
my
want the
start
whole
is.
thing negative?
Say that again?
I thought you like if the phase shift negative, the whole thing's negative.
No, that's just me. That means where I start. I'm still adding whatever my period is to it. So when I end at this point, I go over to this direction, and this is positive pi over 4. What's between negative pi over 4 and pi over 4? That's the quarter point, right?
Oh, sorry.
What's in the middle here? Y'all good?
Yeah.
What's the middle there? 0, right? Okay. And what would be my quarters here and here? That's it. Negative pi over 8 and pi over 8. Cool?
So our first point is 0.
Our first point would be negative pi over 4 is where I start.
Right. I mean, the second point should be 0.
Correct. Because what's between negative pi over 4 and pi over 4? That would be 0. Cool. Okay, let me make sure what I got. All right. Hey, as we finish up, here's what I would say. Okay. Remember, I wanted to get through a lot for Jake today, so that once we go into Thursday, again, we'll do some review. But a lot of people were going to be gone in Pre-Cal 12 in all of my classes, so that's why we really hit it hard today. So thank you. I know it was tough.
Thank you, Coach.
One thing that I will tell you, and I wanted to make sure I went over with you, Jake, when I graph this, okay, and I come up and down, and I do 2 periods, right? When I go to a cosine graph, okay, if this was cosine instead of sine, the only difference is this. Same stuff, same everything. The only difference is instead of starting here, I start at the top here. And instead of going up on the x's, I'm going to go through. So the yellow is the cosine. Right here, it's going to hit the bottom, going to go through, it's going to hit the top. So the yellow would be the cosine,